All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are going to go ahead and get started. Hopefully you're in the right spot. Salesforce Simplified webinar version. And my name's Derek Cassese. I'm joined by Josiah. How you doing, Josiah?
Good, I'm good. Let's talk tech and nonprofits. Two of your favorite things.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks like we have a handful of folks who've joined today. So we're going to go ahead and jump right into it and start off. Let's go here with a big thank you. And I do this in the beginning because I actually come from Salesforce, and every presentation that we gave to customers, if you ever noticed, you've been to a Dreamforce or any Salesforce event, there's a thank you in the beginning, and it's because we know how busy everybody is. So we appreciate you taking the time out to spend a little bit of your morning, afternoon, wherever you're joining from, to listen to us. So do appreciate that. Today, we're going to do some introductions real quick, talk about what's top of mind for nonprofits, talk about how Salesforce fits into the puzzle, and then really dig into the offerings that are out there. So the Nonprofit Success Pack, Nonprofit Cloud, what should you choose, and some comparisons about it, and really just kind of try to get into some of the questions that I think a lot of people have around the new nonprofit cloud. First off, my name is Derek Cassese, and I joined XenTegra back in August of last year. I came over from Salesforce, where I was a principal solutions engineer / developer. I've been a customer. I've been now with the large, software vendors, and now I'm a partner. So I've got some interesting points of view as it pertains to things like this. And I really look forward to connecting with customers, doing these types of things, podcasts, whiteboards, all that good stuff. So that's me, and I'll let Josiah introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name is Josiah Nisbett. I'm the director of sales at Computers for Community. We are a nonprofit ourselves. We are a wing of XenTegra with a primary focus on helping the nonprofit IT community. So we're today talking about our Salesforce practice and how we can help there. I've been a Salesforce user and a Salesforce manager in a handful of smaller organizations. So I kind of have a front row seat from that small, just getting started side of things, and really feel the pain points there. And then now have moved into a bit of a sales role on that side, trying to really understand all of the nonprofits and how we can partner and help.
Awesome. Yeah. And that this is interesting too, is that I really enjoy the conversations that we've had with other nonprofits. I was at Dreamforce in September last year, and it's really rewarding to know that we can help and help the missions and stuff like that the nonprofits have, and do it in a way where I know that we can provide same real good quality support for nonprofits. I know that coming from Salesforce, it's almost like a double-edged sword, and I won't go down a huge road on this, but it's a double-edged sword in that Salesforce provides 56 hours of like volunteer time off to their employees, which is great. It's amazing. And some of those engineers and whatnot decide to volunteer their time, and they'll do pro bono work for nonprofits, which is great. But the problem with that is, it's almost like if you had 15 cooks line up and they each had to try to bake something at the same time, right? You have so many cooks in the kitchen that you have different strategies, different ideas, different naming conventions, and it begins to be a little bit of a mess, right? And so a lot of times I would hear when I was at Salesforce that this partner can help, and that they've got nonprofit costs, and then it's like $300 an hour, right? So anyway, it's we're here to let you know that we can help you with really tough discussions like we're going to get into today, which is around nonprofit nonprofit cloud, success pack? How do you know what to do? I mean, there's so much. This stuff moves so quickly. How do you keep on top of it all? It's almost impossible, right? Without partnering with folks. This is even peers, right? Like partnering with other nonprofits. Hey, how are you solving this problem? Right. And I pulled this out of one of the Salesforce presentations. It's, and I want to get your thoughts on this, Josiah. So nonprofits are in a tough spot, right? It's, economic uncertainty. It's the whole do more with less mentality that's been around now since a little bit before and COVID and coming out of COVID, accountability. Would you agree, like, that these things are still somewhat top of mind, somewhat still issues or hurdles that nonprofits have to deal with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the whole nonprofit space is always going to be in a tough spot. Like, we're trying to solve problems that don't really align well with the kind of capitalistic market space. So it's always a challenge. It's always an uphill battle. But I think, yeah, today is definitely not any easier than it was.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I do want to throw out real quick for everyone in the meeting. We've got the chat open. If we're working through things and you've got active questions right now, throw it in the chat. We'll try to kind of address those, but then we'll also do a Q&A at the end. So hit any questions.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I would, let me back up. So I'm not a big PowerPoint person. So feel free to ask questions. It's not like we have a script. We can make this your webinar and go different directions. But until then, we're going to kind of stay the path. Okay. And the first thing is, how does Salesforce help from a perspective of a nonprofit? And the nonprofit success pack has been out for a long time. And, I kind of put this together last night, looking at kind of what are some of the main buckets, right? Fundraising, program management, marketing, grant making, constituent management, right? And then I put, the blurb down there at the bottom, which is essentially saying Salesforce can help nonprofits grow in their area, succeed based on, the industry standard best practices that they put in their industry solutions. And that's great. And that's wonderful. But there's this thing called nonprofit cloud as well, right? And so there's an umbrella over both of these. And I had to do some digging, right? Because even myself, I was like, getting a little confused. I'd go out and look for documentation on both and try to figure out, what is what. And there's an umbrella called Salesforce for Nonprofits that sits on top of the solutions. So if you're looking at this, you've got the nonprofit cloud on the left and the managed package solutions on the right. Right. And that umbrella, the Salesforce for Nonprofits handles both of these solutions. Now, the NPSP, the Nonprofit Success Pack, has been out for a long time, and it is a managed package that was delivered as a add-on to your orgs, right? And so in the migration guide, which we'll touch on here and there, it essentially says that the nonprofit success pack managed package it helped nonprofits through the object model centered around individuals and organizations. Right. So if anybody's seen that, it's the household model. Provided capability areas focused on fundraising, marketing engagements for individuals. So that was kind of the focus, right? Would you agree, Josiah? Like you've got that installed in your org, right? And so it's, you and I went through the household model quite a bit. So it's got, that's kind of how it was built and centered, right?
Mm.
Because it's a managed package, it's separated from core Salesforce technology. So just like anybody in the world can write an app, get it certified, put it on an app exchange and have it be a managed package, managed being that they can then update it, where unmanaged means it's not. So you just give it to somebody and they can use it at will. They can see the code, make changes. Managed is that they're managing it. And so as Salesforce innovates, that there's a barrier between the nonprofits being able to leverage those innovations.
Yeah, and can we take a bit of a zoom out there, even of like the Salesforce.org up until 2019 was its own organization, and that was an external third-party organization that built an app,
Yep.
installed that as an external managed package. So in 2019, when Salesforce acquired and merged the .org into the same organization, I think there's kind of, that opens this big question of like, where are they going with this? What's the future look like for nonprofits? So I think, seeing Nonprofit Cloud come out as a core component of the Salesforce platform, to me is really exciting. This is nonprofit community is no longer kind of a second-class citizen or an external managed other add-on. They're becoming a part of core. All of the features now get to be used by nonprofit, and we're all kind of like building in the same direction here. So there's a bunch of pros and cons associated with that, but just from a big picture, long-term view there, I'm excited to see nonprofit kind of becoming part of the core package there.
Yeah. Yeah. Really good points. And, if you're still asking yourself, but why, like, what's the point? Like the philosophy behind the switch from the managed package to what we're now calling Nonprofit Cloud is that it's built into the core Salesforce platform. What does that mean? Think of the core. Anytime you hear that, think of the fact that when you get an org, and let's just say you buy Sales Cloud and you bought one enterprise license, that org has all the coding, everything for what we're talking about. It's just not enabled. So you buy licensing and you basically turn on that light switch based on what you're licensed for. And that's embedded into the core platform, which means that innovations in other areas are open to being leveraged, right? And so when we look at the nonprofit cloud that's built on core, now you start seeing, AI capabilities. You start seeing, Slack integrations. You see all the other pieces that create that ecosystem are now available, whereas they weren't before. And so you can start expanding upon what's delivered, right? And so one of the things that they mentioned was that, fundraising, program and case management, outcome management, there's a lot more to what's being offered with the nonprofit cloud just because of the fact that it's sitting on core. So, and I think that's an important thing to understand, because in the beginning, I was kind of wondering, what's the driver behind this, right? Because it wasn't like, there's so many people on the success pack. So the question was, well, why wouldn't they just keep innovating on that and leave it at that, right? But it does make sense as Salesforce moves to bring everything on platform, like they've just announced about Marketing Cloud, like everything's starting to become on platform because of the move into AI and all the other features that are being, added to this solution. So without doing that, you're basically isolating folks above all of that, above the core platform technologies. So hopefully that makes sense. Do we have any questions? Let's see.
Alex has asked, is XenTegra native to Salesforce?
Yeah, so
go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, so XenTegra is a Salesforce partner. I actually am the managing director of that practice. I came over from Salesforce because my whole goal is to help customers succeed, period. End of story. Like, that is my job. However I do that, that's my job. And it's to do it, though, in a way where I'm not, if you say I want to take a left, but I want you to get there taking 3 rights, I'm going to stop and say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't I just take a left? Right. We're going to bring up, best practices. You're not going to see hard coded IDs in our work, things like that. Like, I just feel like there's a quality issue right now with good partnerships, and partnerships meaning that it's not just do this and we'll do it, right? And so, and what we're doing right now is part of that is enablement and having discussions and, kind of cracking into some of these a little bit more complex decisions that customers have to make, if you will, right? I mean, the next one's a whole thing on AI, right? You can have a whole webinar on AI and the benefits and pros and cons of that. So that's kind of how XenTegra fits into it. Let's see, anything else?
That's it for now.
Good. All right. So the other thing is that there are, with the nonprofit success pack, right? There were a few main pieces of that. And let's do this. So one of them was programs, right? Now, what we're going to do, so the program, it's hard when you start comparing the nonprofit success pack with nonprofit cloud, which is what you want to do immediately. And what I mean by that is that because it's such a different architecture, there may not be apples to apples, right? There may be some things that have to be thought of in a different way. But there are the features, like the goals, right, Josiah, like programs, fundraising, they're all there. They're just achieved in a different way, right? And so I'm going to show, here's a deck, right? And this is essentially kind of going through nonprofit cloud and some of the main pieces of the nonprofit cloud from a high level. Okay, this is like, marketing slides. But again, it's programs. So you've got your programs and you've got the ability to basically set these all up. Now let's have the conversation about, okay, what I'm doing that with the nonprofit success pack, right? Josiah, like, let's have that.
Yeah.
Like, what is in it for me discussion. So
yeah, and it really is hard. Like when you start stacking these up side by side, like feature to feature, it's a little challenging at this stage to say that there's any benefit to nonprofit cloud other than kind of an architectural philosophy and a future looking momentum. But yeah, when you look at programs, I mean, it's the same module. It is included in your licensing in the nonprofit cloud versus an add-on upgrade on the nonprofit success pack, but it's the same structure that you're going to be working with.
right. And then you got fundraising, right? And so fundraising has also been built out into the nonprofit cloud. But I want to call it, there's something under the hood here that's a significant change. And it's the way that the constituents are managed. So it's interwoven among all of this, right? Whether you're doing fundraising or programs or even grant making, right? Which is a new piece to the nonprofit cloud. And it's the household model, which everybody's been using in the nonprofit success pack, versus the person account. And it's a significant change, right?
Yeah.
And so the reason, and that is why the migration to get from the nonprofit success pack into nonprofit cloud, and I will say in their words right here, again, this is the migration guide to go from the managed package to the cloud, is more akin to a re-implementation, right? So that tells me that this is why, I mean, these are going to be tough decisions to make.
It is.
Okay, so we've talked about the fact that, all right, if I'm on the success pack, I'm going to be going to the core platform if I move. Good. I'm going to have access to more of the innovations. Okay. Right. It's a little bit more, I don't like using the word future proof, but it's a little bit more future proof, this is the direction of Salesforce, even though it's still under the umbrella of what they're offering for the Salesforce for nonprofits. I have access to new pieces, right? And so new pieces are, if we come back to this slide here in the beginning, right here. So there are new features like AI, Omni Studio for automation. So Omni Studio, for anybody, that's, you know, a guided flow-based automation tool set, very similar to Flows, but it's in the industry clouds only. It's available now in the nonprofit cloud. So you're getting access to a whole bunch of these tools. You're getting access to the AI. You're getting access to the core platform feature set that isn't even out now 2 years from now. Right. That's kind of the one of the major carrots of moving. Is that going to be enough for existing customers? Right. That is a question that can't be answered on a webinar like this, because what we need to do is sit down and you need to, customers and nonprofits need to sit down and look at how they're leveraging the nonprofit success pack. And then you come over to a comparison and you start walking through what is critical, how are you using it, and is it supported, and then how is it supported. And then once you understand all those pieces and making sure there's no red flags on what is missing, what isn't missing, then you go back to, okay, everything's there that we need, right? Like we've got fundraising, we've got constituent management. I know we're going to switch to the person account. I get that. I'm going to have actual better UI experiences because I've got somebody that knows Omni Studio. Okay, that's great. But how do you get there? That's when you really need to like familiarize yourself with the migration guide, because it is a very complex, it's a very complex move. And I will tell you right here, because I like to kind of show you exactly what I'm reading here. Moving from the nonprofit success pack to nonprofit cloud is complicated. This is not a straightforward software upgrade. So these are things that you typically don't see in documents from software vendors. They're painting the picture now, saying that this is basically a start over scenario, right? I mean,
you see that kind of stuff from partners or from consultants, some, but for that to come from the vendor themselves to say, like, be cautious here, like this is a big move. Like they're not sugarcoating this at all.
Yeah.
It really is a full re-implementation. So, I mean, I've talked to quite a few nonprofits that are just now starting to look at, should we be moving to Salesforce? Like if that's the scenario, then I think that's really, it's challenging for me to advise someone at this stage to move into the nonprofit success pack when I don't know, like in 5-10 years from now, is that really where Salesforce is going? That doesn't feel like good consulting or good directions. But if you've already got an implementation, then also, you know, advising you to move at this stage that's a lot.
Yeah. Alex, yes, the managed package is the success pack. The question was, is managed package solutions the same as the nonprofit success pack? That is correct. So when we talk about the nonprofit cloud, that is the core native offering that's new. And when we talk about the success pack, that is a managed package that's installed on top of an existing Salesforce org. So it's not deeply integrated, right? That's the difference. One thing here too that I found interesting was it says new nonprofit cloud implementations are now outpacing new implementations of the success pack. To your point, right? It would be very difficult for me to recommend starting on the managed package, knowing that the customer has a chance to start on the core platform and reap the benefits that are yet to come, right? That's the key here is if you take a step back, even away from just nonprofit, and you look at what Salesforce has been doing with like moving Marketing Cloud to core, they're trying to bring more and more of the acquired pieces onto the core platform. It doesn't happen overnight, but that's what's happening. And they're doing that because they understand that you can then develop one time and everybody gets the benefit of it, right? Instead of having to develop in silos and tiers and, I mean, if you remember, like one of the first slides was, let's see, where is it here? Let's go back to the slides. If I can. All right, here we go. Was the nonprofit. Let's see if I can pull this up. Right here. So, I mean, these are all packages, right, Josiah? Like,
Yep.
So if somebody's starting out, and they want some or all of this, it's like you got to do all these managed packages. Each one of these is licensed differently, as opposed to, okay, let me get some of this. And I've got just significantly less management.
Your licensing is certainly a lot simpler when you move to the nonprofit cloud, where it just includes, like right out of the gate, you include that program management, the case management, outcomes management. Actually, outcomes isn't even an option in the success pack. That's a big feature there.
Yep. So one of the takeaways, hopefully today, is the understanding the why, right? It's the reason that they've built nonprofit cloud is so that cross-industry solution innovations can be leveraged. So that's pretty big. It may not be big enough, right? It may be like, okay, well, but we don't need any of that stuff. It's license management is significantly easier. It's the ability to standardize the way that you're doing things without a lot of custom objects, right? And then the other thing to take away is that the core platform is literally based on license. It's a licensing thing. It's not a bunch of installed applications on top of each other, right? That is the main differences from an architecture and philosophy perspective. And then the other thing to understand is that as they build out the new nonprofit cloud, because it's not gonna be apples for apples overnight, but they're going to continue to innovate and add features, right? Feature parity. It's not going to be implemented the same way because we know that we got person accounts versus household model.
Yeah.
And so this document, and by the way, the documents that I'm sharing, we'll put into the resources slide, and the slides will be available after this webinar because these things are. Put these in like a folder somewhere, and when you get ready to kind of look at this stuff, you can refer to these. These things are really important. And again, like this is the type of thing though that you're going to want to. I'll find the link of it so you have the live copy of this because this will be updated. As we get past summer 24, things like that. Right. But so what they're doing here is they're doing a program management comparison, and I don't want to read all this stuff, but you can see how some of the stuff that was a paid extra add-on, and you brought this up yesterday, Josiah, right? It's like you can, like all the things that would create nonprofit cloud are just paid extra add-ons for the nonprofit success pack customers right now.
Yep. So that is something, I mean, you're going to have to kind of case by case shake that out of where does the costing kind of work out for you? Because your cheapest licensing of the success pack is cheaper than nonprofit cloud. That's just true. So moving to nonprofit cloud is going to be more expensive than just base success pack. But if there's any of the extra features that you're already licensing or we're looking at licensing, depending on how you kind of package that, you may end up at a much better value on that nonprofit cloud than buying a bunch of separate licenses in the success pack.
Yep. And there's a lot here. I mean, this is somewhat of an eye chart, but they go, you can see as I scroll through this, there are, so outcome management, like Josiah mentioned a little bit ago, right? Did not exist, does exist, right? So in nonprofit cloud, you're getting outcome management. Yeah, so the question just came in, has anyone done a price comparison per component? So I was doing a little searching around for something similar to that. And I couldn't find anything. Probably what you're looking for. Like what I would love to see is like pricing next to all these, like this chart, but with pricing. I was not able to find that. What they
But
do
Darren, that's
have,
for, like, you've got the green check mark on nonprofit cloud. You get one license SKU for that nonprofit cloud that includes the program management and the case management and the outcomes. Like there's no extra licensing pricing that you're going
right,
to see there.
right.
That 60
Now,
a month, that covers a bunch of those features.
yeah, and this is as of today. So obviously, we were got back and forth whether we were going to talk about pricing, but it came up. So here you go. This is the Salesforce for nonprofits pricing guide. Yay! And they start out with the cloud. So you've got there's a couple different versions of it, and this has also changed. So you've got like the nonprofit enterprise edition and unlimited. Then you've got nonprofit cloud for grant making. And then Experience Cloud, so creating web-based presence. So that's a little extra. So you can create like a community, which would be neat and awesome. If you're not doing Experience Cloud, we could do a webinar on that. But then you come down to the managed package section, right? And now you've got all this, the breakout of all that: accounting subledger, insight platform, marketing and engagement, PMM, right? Case management and all this stuff starts to add up, right? And not to mention all these things are different licenses that you have to manage. But again, I haven't seen a side-by-side yet.
I think the pricing is a little hard to kind of cover in a webinar format. I think that's going to make more sense on an individual organization standpoint to like, just let's put together a quick conversation. We might include your Salesforce rep in that conversation and really just kind of put together a comparison.
Yeah, and it may be something that we dive into also, like maybe get some volunteers to say, here's what I own in the nonprofit success pack.
Yeah.
And then like, we'll go and create a side-by-side. That would be an interesting thing to do.
Yeah.
Another question, does nonprofit cloud have any additional duplicate management services besides what's native to Salesforce with duplicate and matching rules? You're going to get what comes with the core. So it's not going to have anything like duplicate management plus, right? If you will, it's going to have, if you're familiar with the duplicate management and matching rules you get with Sales Cloud, that's what you're going to get. Unfortunately. Yeah. So, and I know that those rules and stuff isn't perfect, but it's not gonna, from my understanding, there's nothing extra from that perspective involved. All right. I put this together too. I found something similar on the web. I mean, just kind of I'm going to build it out a little bit more, but just kind of pulling out some of the differences here. I mean, really what I'm driving at here is the person account. You can see that person account. You've got like objects that you're using instead of custom objects. I mean, but this is incomplete. It's not, everything's not there yet. Omni Studio is one of the ones that's interesting to me. I don't know if the folks on today's webinar are familiar with Omni Studio or not. You're not going to have used it unless you have access to some type of an industry cloud, but it is extremely, extremely powerful. And, it almost warrants something we could dive into in a separate whole session because we don't have enough time right now. But it is very similar to Salesforce Flows, but takes it takes it to a different level. You got kind of like
on steroids.
You got like pixel perfect type design for objects, right? So you could create like lightning web objects, which they call flex cards. They've got integration procedures where you can do all kinds of crazy stuff and like, easily access APIs. So it's a very, very powerful tool set, not to overlook as being part of the cloud, the nonprofit cloud. I was surprised to see that it was in there. That's a big one. Now, who will use that? That's the question, right? Is do the nonprofits have the capability or need to use Omni Studio? May not. Now, the reason it's there is again because you're on the core platform. It's there and available where it used to not be, right?
Yep.
And then the other thing is also, this is important. If you click on this link, it's going to take you to a page where you can sign up and get your own test nonprofit cloud instance. And it's pretty cool because you can get one that's got the new summer bits in it. So you can see the new stuff that's coming out, or you can get the ones that are out right now. You just sign up and that way you can go in and there's nothing better. I mean, because we all have like all this extra time in our days, right? To go play with these orgs.
It'll be
But,
an org that's not your.
yeah, I mean, but I think that, we've all been in there and be like, what is this? What does this do? Do it in that org, not your actual org. And, that way you're kind of familiar with it and you understand, what the new stuff is. At least you can see it. Right. So, okay, that was really quick, felt like, and I know that we kind of went through this and we probably didn't answer like hard and fast rule of should you go with the success pack, should you go with nonprofit cloud. It's kind of by design in that, so I will back up. If you're new, my recommendation is to go with the nonprofit cloud. Would you concur? Okay.
100%. I mean, I don't love the timing right now of that. If you're right now onboarding, just because it is a new thing, you're going to be an early adopter. I mean, I guess I love being an early adopter, but I know that that's not for everyone. But at the same time, I can't in good conscience like push someone towards the success pack, not knowing what the future of that's going to look like.
Yeah, it's not. I can't really understand the argument of actually starting there right now.
Yep.
There would have to be something that just truly doesn't exist in the nonprofit cloud right now that you have to have. And it would have to not exist in the nonprofit cloud for the next couple of versions, I would think. And then you'd have to go to the success pack. I don't know what that is, but that would be a reason that you'd have to start.
Yep. So here's a direct question of, will NPSP be discontinued in the future, from one of our guests? That has not been stated anywhere from Salesforce. They have stated that they will continue to support it for the foreseeable future. It's a little challenging for me to envision a world 10 years from now that they still have an externally managed package for something that they also have a similarly built core product for. So I don't know where that's going to be, but it feels to me like from a business standpoint, you have to sunset that at some point.
So I will just answer that with one word: classic. Right.
Yep.
There's a lot of people still on classic versus lightning. So one thing that I know is that it's very important. It is one of the core values is customer success. Right. And a customer can't be successful if they basically strand you on an island and say, you're done, we're not supporting you. So I don't believe that they will ever stop supporting the nonprofit success pack. That this is Derek Cassese's opinion. What they may state is that they will not be innovating for it anymore, meaning that like what you see is what you get as of right now. But I don't believe that, they're just going to strand people. And if that was something that they were going to do, I can almost imagine that the runway would be like a decade or something, something crazy to give people a long time to move, because
absolutely
it's just not the model, right? I've seen it from the inside of Salesforce. I mean, they do a lot to make sure that they don't isolate people. Are they 100% successful? Probably not, but they understand that there are people that are leveraging these things that are like critical to their business and well-being, and that's not taken lightly
Critical
at
to
all.
society and operations of the country in a lot of ways. Like this nonprofit community is foundational to things moving forward. So that's pretty critical.
So go ahead, Julia.
Derek, I have from your perspective, do you think by moving organizations into core platform and off of an external managed package, is that going to make it easier to get admins or consultants or partners to be able to help or guide an organization? Is it going to be easier to onboard a team of people into a nonprofit that have experience from for-profit organizations?
Say it again. It's going to be easier to onboard somebody to nonprofit cloud.
Are there going to be more people in the Salesforce community that have experience with core Salesforce that now can do work in nonprofits? Since without it being in the success pack, does the success pack itself put almost a barrier to finding talent?
It adds complexity, right? Because so let me put it this way. So the managed packages are isolated pieces of code, which means that if you have a developer or somebody that's a whiz kid with Salesforce, they still can't see the code that makes it. Yep. Like you can't even open up Visual Studio Code. You can't get to it. You can't get to the metadata. It's proprietary based solution because it's a managed package. So there is that. I mean, you can with the core, right? You're gonna have access to the metadata of these objects. They're gonna be standard objects. So yeah, I think there is some validity to what you're saying, in that somebody that's proficient on the core platform now would be proficient with a lot of the nuances that like for example, the household model is probably like a mystery to somebody that's really just only been working with Sales Cloud. But a person account they work with that all the time, right? So that's a good example of what you're saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that does hold some value. We have a couple minutes. I just wanted to pull this up. This is when I mentioned that you could get an org for yourself, right? This is what it would look like. Like I actually spun one up, and I was kind of poking around at fundraiser strategies, right? You got your dashboards. Omni Studio is in here, like I was mentioning. So if you've never seen an Omni script, it'll spin up the first time. It has to compile, which is why the first time you do this in an org, it takes a little bit of time. But then once it compiles, you can see like this is the designer. For anybody that's not seen this, now this is a little bit in the weeds. But again, this tool set is something that you just wouldn't have access to if you're on the success pack. So it's almost like, if you're starting new, you could buy a car from one dealer or buy a car from a dealer that gives you a free boat. Like I'm going to take the free boat. Sorry. So anyway, I just wanted to show that. And, but yeah, I mean, this is essentially, what we wanted to show and talk about. So if anybody has any other questions, coming in?
Let me check the actual Q&A section as well. I don't think we have anything new. This is probably we need to spin up a whole nother episode on Omni Studio specifically. And then also, Derek, we should do a whole nother one on Sales Cloud.
Oh, we could. An interesting question just came in. So the nonprofit success pack is open source because it sits on GitHub, which is true. It could. Yeah, I mean, so the question is, considering the nonprofit success pack is open source, and what is meant by that is this, for those looking. Okay, so this is the success pack. This is essentially the code. Now this would be unmanaged. Like if you like went this route, then you're managing the unmanaged package. the question was then, can it become an external project and the community continue innovating on it? And I mean, that's a phenomenal idea, right? And I would say that if Salesforce got to a point where they were really trying to deviate, then I could see them like wanting to go that route, saying, okay, this is now the Trailblazer community. You own this. It's available on GitHub. Let's see what you do. Right. Which would be pretty amazing, because I bet you that in a certain amount of time, this thing would be pretty amazing. Right. But this is for, folks that are comfortable with compiling and coding, understanding the concepts about taking a code from a Salesforce org and turning it into something usable. So there's obviously a development background that would be needed for this. But yeah, really, really interesting thing that you brought up. That was an awesome comment. So the other thing before we go is, again, just to put the plug out there for Computers for Community and XenTegra. We are here to help you guys succeed. Like I said, that is literally my job. And we're doing some amazing things as far as enablement. We're offering, by the way, Dreamforce passes at an insane 90% discount. I've got a boatload of Trailblazer hoodies that I like to give out at our events and stuff like that. So, feel free to reach out. Got, our contacts will be in the resources from this webinar. And again, if you have other things, like if you're like, okay, that was great, but I'd love to go deeper in this, let us know and we'll do another one. Right. I mean, to your point, Josiah, we could do one on the commonalities of now that you're on core. We can do one on whatever we need to do to help you guys answer the questions that you got. Josiah, you got anything else you want to bring up?
No, I think Dreamforce passes, that's a big one. Like if anyone listening doesn't already have tickets to Dreamforce and you'd like to be there, we'll get you there. Let's make it happen.
Yep, absolutely. And if you have not been to a Dreamforce, I would recommend going at least one time. It's insane. It's a lot, but
Yep.
I would recommend going one time only. And I will tell you, the peer-to-peer conversations is where it's at. Like, that's the value. You come away having met people that are in the same spot as you, solving the same problems, maybe have tackled it differently, and you're building that community. That's what I love about the Dreamforce. That's what we're trying to do with like local events, trying to kind of recreate that type of stuff. So again, we appreciate your time today. Thank you very much, and have a great rest of your day.
And if any questions popped in at the end there, but I think that was it. That's a wrap, Derek.
We done? Yeah, it ended, right? Yeah. Good deal. How do you think that went?